Hi everyone. We should now be live in Facebook. Happy Wednesday to you all. I hope you're having a good day. Let me just jump into the coaching group to see if we are live. If any of you guys are online, drop me a message. I know we had a couple of audio issues last week, so if you could let me know if you can hear me okay, that would be fantastic. So for those of you guys on Facebook, yeah, drop me a message, tell me where you're dialing in from, that would be great. And for those of you on Zoom as well, feel free to send me a message on Zoom chat if you've got any questions in the next half an hour. Similarly on Facebook as well, just feel free to drop me a comment as we go through, and I will answer any questions as we go along. So I'll just wait another minute or so before getting started. Let me just share my screen. Just a second. Share screen, and then we can go into here. Okay. So let me just jump into here. So let me just quickly check that we're all set. Let me just check my phone. We're all ready to go. So I think we are all good to go. So if any of you guys are unable to hear me, just drop me a message and I will just double check the audio. But anyway, let's get started. So today is all about SEO. We're talking about SEO. How do we use SEO as cleaning business owners? It's one of those things that is talked about an awful lot. It is definitely one of these industries where many people don't know what SEO involves. What do SEO agencies do? There's lots of language, lots of complexity. And when we boil it all down, it is actually pretty simple. But this complexity can be very risky for us as business owners, because if we don't understand what SEO is all about and what agencies are doing, if they're managing the account for us, then that this puts us in quite a difficult position. So before I just jump in, I'm just going to just double check that we are all good to go. As I say, guys, let me know if you've got any questions, as we go in. So let's just jump straight into it. So SEO, what is it and why is it so important? So let me just jump into a search I did just before jumping on the call, just to tell you what SEO refers to for those of you that might not know. So if someone types in, for example, this term, house cleaners Chicago, this is this page is what is called the page one on Google. And really this is where we want to be. People don't generally scroll to page 2 or page 3. It's all about page 1. So what we see at the very top of the page is basically the adverts, the Google ads, the Google local service ads. So these are the advertising spots. You'll see the ads here. As you go a bit further down, this middle section here is called the Google My Business section, the GMB profiles. And this is where we have some listings, some addresses, some reviews. And then the next section, the sort of probably the bottom half of page 1 is all divided out into these Google SEO rankings. They're called the organic search results. That's another phrase that you might often hear. So you can see here in Chicago, we've got some Yelp listings, Merry Maids up there, Sparkly Maid, Handy. A few of these companies, for those of you who are based out there, will have come across these. So basically, SEO is this bottom section of page 1. So it's a big chunk of page 1. It's really, really important. And, whereas the ads we can pay to be positioned on page 1, with the Google organic results, we can't pay directly. We can't say, Google, this is so many dollars. We want to be, ranked at the top of the organic results listing. So the way that Google decides who is positioned at the top of the page, they basically have a black box. There are hundreds, thousands of things they look at. And really the idea is that they want to deliver the most relevant results for that person who has typed that into Google. So if someone has typed in house cleaners Chicago, Google then wants to serve up those those results which they think are most relevant to that searcher. And the reason they want to do this is ultimately Google wants people to spend as much time as possible on their, on their browser. The more time that they spend on the browser, the more engagement there is, they're more likely to click on adverts. Google obviously gets paid for ads and other things as well. So really the engagement is really important. And this is what I mean by the engagement metrics. And if Google can serve us results, which means that we stay on there, go to the proposed websites and stay on them for a long time. It means that the time that we are on those results, using the Google Internet browser is longer. So Google generally likes results where people are spending lots of time flicking from page to page, having a good read, watching videos, all these sorts of things. And this really feeds into this primary part here. So if there's lots of engagement, it means that the person who's typed in house cleaner Chicago is getting a lot of value from that result. It is a very, very relevant result. So in essence, what Google is trying to do is look through all the page it has listed, and it's trying to bring up the results where they think the searcher will get most value from it. So that is really what SEO is. It's this algorithm of Google's that is trying to pick out the most relevant results depending on the search term that is put in here. So if we typed in house cleaners Chicago or New York, obviously we get a different set of results because it needs to be relevant for what that person is searching. So on page one on Google, as I said, we've got the ads at the top, we've got the, the maps listings in the middle, but the reality is that most people who search, who go onto page one on Google will go down and scroll down to these organic results because, there is a value, they see that, Google has done the homework really and picked out those results that they think are most relevant. So still the majority of people will go to these organics results listings. That is changing. We're getting more and more people clicking on the ads at the top. We're getting more people clicking on the Google My Business listings in the middle, but still the majority will go through to the organic results. So this is why SEO is so important, because if it's still getting the majority of traffic on page one, we want to be visible there. And certainly, with the cleaning companies that I work with, I tell them, we want to maximize visibility across all page one. So we want to be doing our Google ads at the top. We want to have a visible Google My Business listing. We want to be ranked high in the organic results. And if we are visible across these multiple areas, it means that we're more likely to get clicked on. People are more likely to come to our website. More clicks equals more leads equals more clients. So being ranked in SEO on our organic listings is super important. So bullet 3 is very important because, in my business, over 50% of our traffic comes from SEO. So, we have lots of great traffic from Google ads. We have lots of great referral traffic, partner traffic, but still over 50%. And the dominant driver of the traffic to our website is SEO. And you will find this is the case with the vast majority of large 6-figure and 7-figure businesses. So most of their traffic will be coming from SEO. So if you've got goals to build large 6-7-figure businesses, then you will need to have an SEO strategy. It's no longer enough to have an accidental SEO strategy. As I talked about a while ago, where people will accidentally find themselves in position 1, 2, or 3 for certain keywords. That's no longer enough because SEO is getting more and more competitive. We need a definitive strategy to get to those top positions. This final point here in this section is really just, reiterating what I said at the beginning. is that SEO is one of those areas where there's lots of complicated jargon, complicated language. This is one of the reasons why many business owners will just say, and this is exactly what I did, let's just find an SEO agency to do it for me. I've got no idea how it works. I've got no idea what any of these terms mean. Let's find an expert and get them to manage it for them. So the theory of that is great, but there is a big risk involved with that. So if you don't really understand what is involved with SEO and how to rank organically, more importantly, if you get someone else to manage it for you, an SEO agency, you can't keep them accountable. You can't, because you don't understand how it works, you can't ask the questions. And this is where there is a big risk involved, because there's a couple of terms that you guys may have come across. So SEO, there's really sort of three areas, and there are three different types of actions you can do in SEO, which will, improve the rankings of your keywords. So there's something called white hat, which is very, very above board. Google is absolutely very happy with that. There is, on the other end, there's black hat. So these are the sort of practices that Google really, really frowns upon. This is really about artificially inflating the ranking of your website. So it may be putting in lots and lots of keywords, stuffing into your landing pages. It may be buying backlinks from blog networks, and buying links is something that Google frowns upon. So this is something that's called black hat. And then in the middle, you've got the gray hat, which is a mix of both. And the problem with this is that Google doesn't really tell us definitively this is fine, but this isn't fine. The goalposts are always moving. And this is why you get so many businesses, including very large businesses, getting Google penalties. And Google penalties may be as small as having a very short-term hit on your rankings. You may find you were position 2 for house cleaners Chicago, but then suddenly you've dropped down to page, to number 22. You might find that comes back up again, but what you also might find is that you disappear completely. You may go from position 2 to not being ranked at all. And this may, there are various ways that we can try and figure out why this has happened. But going back to the initial point, if you don't understand how SEO works, you can't keep anyone else accountable, an SEO agency, or maybe you hire someone into your firm to manage SEO and marketing for you. If you as the business owner don't know, you are basically putting all your trust into the hands of someone, and you have this very real risk of a Google penalty. And this is something you absolutely want to avoid as much as possible, because SEO drives the majority of traffic for large businesses. So if you get a penalty, you get blacklisted, this will severely inhibit the chances of you building a large cleaning business. So that is a quick summary of what SEO is and why it's so important. The next section we'll jump into some of the more technical, the technical areas of SEO and how we improve our ranks. But what I'll do is I'll just quickly jump into Facebook and Zoom and see if there's any questions. Guys, as I said, feel free to let me know if you've got any questions as we go along. It looks like we're good to go. So moving on to the second section then. So we know now what SEO is and why it's important. So the next question is, how do we make sure that when someone types in house cleaners Chicago, that we are one of these results at the top? Ideally number one, but the higher the better, really. And really the way that we do this is by two broad techniques. So this is where you may have come across the terms on-site SEO and offsite SEO. So let's start with on-site SEO. It's generally the one that is easier to get your head around and the easier to sort of optimize. But really where it all starts is trying to understand as a business owner what your most important keywords are. So really, this is a pretty simple concept. The idea is that, say you are a house cleaning company in Chicago, then a very important keyword for you would be someone typing in house cleaners Chicago. So it could be cleaning services Chicago. It could be residential cleaning Chicago. Those are all examples of different keywords. But you as a business owner should know that if you are a house cleaning company based in Chicago, that someone typing that into Google based in Chicago, that would be some great traffic for you. You would hopefully understand that if someone searched that, they are likely looking for a cleaning company in Chicago. And if they clicked on your website, there'd be a good chance that they'd pick up the phone, give you a call, ask for a quote, or go online and fill out an online form fill as well. So first stage is to try and understand what the most important keywords are. And then the idea is that once we know what those important keywords are, we then want to build specific landing pages for these keywords on our website. So I'll jump into my own cleaning business is called Neat, and as I said, the majority of our traffic is SEO. So I'll show you what some of those landing pages might look like. But the idea is that if we are building separate landing pages, for example, focused on the keywords house cleaners Chicago, there stands a greater likelihood that if someone types in house cleaners Chicago, then that specific landing page will come up. And there's various reasons for why that happens. But if there's lots of examples of these keywords on that page, there's lots of instances of the term house cleaners Chicago. If there's a title, if we're talking about Chicago, if we're talking about cleaning services in Chicago, Google looks at the whole lot and will say, okay, yeah, this landing page looks like it's very targeted for house cleaners Chicago. We therefore think it is pretty relevant to the searcher. So what we're going to do is we're going to rank it higher, because we think that there'll be more value for people if they clicked on our page, because that is what we do. So I'll show you what we mean. But if we go into my own website here, so as I said, we're my cleaning business is Neat. We were in 4 cities. London is our headquarters. So this is our website, but the landing pages are, we can scroll down to the bottom. We've got lots and lots of landing pages, but London is our one of our, it's our big headquarters, and down here are some of the what we call the borough areas. So London's a big urban area, but we can also break it down into specific regions. And this is really what we're talking about when we're talking about the landing pages. So let's have a look at Canary Wharf. Canary Wharf is a big financial district in London. So what you can see here is we've created a landing page which is based around the keyword, cleaners in Canary Wharf cleaners. You can see here in the URL, we've got the URL at the top, which includes cleaners Canary Wharf. We've got the title here. This is an image of Canary Wharf. We can put a tag, we can put a title on this. Including Canary Wharf down here. We're talking about our services in the area. This is our checklist down here. You can see the terms Canary Wharf and cleaning are scattered all around here. We've got the map of the area. We've got some of our clients. So what you can see here is that we are showing Google in lots of different ways that this page is very, very relevant for anyone that's looking for cleaners in Canary Wharf, house cleaners in Canary Wharf, apartment cleaners in Canary Wharf. So there are various ways that we can do this, but this is really the start. We try and identify which keywords are really important, and that tends to be, as I say here, a service plus location. So it could be house cleaners Chicago, it could be cleaners Canary Wharf, it could be office cleaners New York. So the keyword generally in our industry will be the service type being office cleaners or janitorial or house clean, and then the location. The location can be a large the large area, larger urban area, London or New York, or it could be even more fragmented from that. It could even be, specific parts of those areas if you live or targeting a large urban area. So this is the way that we approach it here. And as I said, we go into a lot more detail about SEO. SEO is something that we could talk about hours and hours, and we go into a lot more depth in my coaching program. But in essence, this is really the first step. So we're trying to figure out what the most important keywords are, and these tend to be the service plus location. We then look to optimize the on-site SEO, and that is by building landing pages specific for each keyword. And these things in brackets here, there are various ways that we can signal to Google that this page is relevant for what we, for that searcher. Keyword density, tagging, titles, image tagging. There are lots and lots of different things here. So we want to be showing Google that it is relevant, but obviously we don't want to be doing it overly doing it. We don't want to be pushing it too far, because the more we push it, the more artificial it looks, the more likely that page will get flagged and the Google penalty risk increases. And that is something, as I said, we absolutely don't want to do. So before I move on to the offsite, SEO, which is quite a big one, let me just quickly jump in, just see how we're all doing. Okay, we seem to be all okay. As I said, any questions, guys, just drop me a comment, drop me a message, and I can come back to that. So we've covered on-site SEO, which is creating the landing pages. As I said here, this is one of the examples. So the next big step is what's called the offsite SEO. And offsite SEO is really the most time-consuming part of SEO, the most difficult part of SEO. And once you can relatively easily build out these landing pages, get it all set up right, get your on-site SEO set up correctly, the page speed, there's various different things we need to check. But generally, the on-site SEO is relatively easy to get up and running pretty quickly and get to a good landing page with all the right things on there. The offsite SEO is where things get much more time consuming. And this is where you see, SEO agencies charging thousands of dollars a month, because really it is challenging. It takes time. There's lots of manual input that's required. So offsite SEO, really the focus with offsite SEO is something called backlink building. And backlink building, as an example, would be, say you are an office cleaning company based in New York, and you are lucky enough to have a journalist at the New York Times get in touch with you and say, we want to interview you as the business owner of this company after the COVID pandemic, to really just find out and understand how the cleaning industry has changed after COVID. We want to find out more about fogging. We want to find out more about sanitation. We want to run an interview with you. So an interview is fantastic. And usually what happens with these types of things is that they will usually say, so-and-so business owner at this cleaning company, and they'll include a link back to your website. So this is an example of a backlink, and actually a very, very high quality backlink. And the way that we want to think of each backlink is to think of it as a vote. So the fact that the New York Times has written about our cleaning company is a huge vote of confidence. So if Google sees that there's a link from the New York Times to our website, that is a huge vote. And this offsite SEO feeds directly into the ranking of your company on the organic search results. So if we've got lots and lots of great links from these high quality publications, then these are all fantastic votes. There are all these companies saying that, yeah, this is a great company, great company, great company. Google's going to interpret that as saying, okay, this is, if they are a house cleaning company or office cleaning company in New York, we can see that they're getting all these votes from these great publishers. We're going to rank that much higher. So if someone goes to Google and types in office cleaning company New York, these votes will mean that our company is rated, is ranked higher than others. So this is an example of what a backlink is. And Google looks at the number of backlinks, but it also looks at the quality of the backlinks. So you can imagine a backlink from the New York Times is worth a lot more than, say, a local mum's blogger that has 1,000 subscribers. You know, obviously the New York Times has many more viewers, subscribers. To get a backlink on New York Times is much harder. You know, they're not writing about every single cleaning company in the area. Google knows that to get a backlink on the New York Times is much more difficult than, say, you know, a local mum's blog, which may not have the readership. And this is what we refer to the term here. So we're getting into a bit more of the detail, the complexity of SEO. But one of the ways that we can track the quality of the backlinks is by looking at something called the domain authority. And the domain authority is basically a ranking from 0 to 100, 100 being the highest quality publishers, you know, New York Times, you know, some of these big, you know, big publishers online as well. So, you know, the local mums blogs would probably be lower, you know, 10, 20, 30. So when Google looks at your offsite SEO, it's looking at the number of backlinks, it's looking at the quality of the backlinks, it's also looking at the growth of backlinks, because if, say, you've had lots of backlinks and, you know, in the last 3 months you've had nothing, then that's an indicator to Google to say, okay, well, something's happened here. If you've got a consistent number of backlinks every month, or they're even growing every month, this is a really great indicator to Google that, you know, this business is a really high quality business. And Google is about relevancy of search results. It's also about the quality of search results as well. So we want consistency in a backlink building. But really, you know, you can probably imagine why SEO agencies charge so much, because to get a link in the New York Times or something like that every month is going to take a lot of relationship building. It's going to take a lot of time. You know, you may be building these relationships, but maybe the journalist isn't ready to write about your business today. You know, there are various ways that we can get backlinks. As I said, interviews are a good one. Maybe they're talking more generally about the cleaning industry. You know, for example, the cleaning industry, you know, during the pandemic, you know, it's something that people are interested in reading about. So they will often ask cleaning companies, cleaning specialist companies for quotes. And this is another way you can, you know, you can get, you know, backlinks. But as I said, you know, this is really where the bulk of work is done when you're trying to build out your SEO. And, you know, there's a huge amount of different ways that we can build these backlinks. You know, conversely, there are lots of, you know, ways to build backlinks, but very artificially. And this is the black hat SEO I was talking about before. And this is when, you know, we run the risk of Google penalties. So we need to know as business owners how our SEO agencies are finding these backlinks. Is it from a very white hat approach? Are they manually getting in touch and building relationships with publishers? Are they buying backlinks? Are they getting backlinks artificially from other websites that they own? You know, there's a whole industry around backlink building that we need to be very on top of, because if we get a Google penalty, as I said, the chance of us building a large cleaning business, you know, disappears really. You can't build a large cleaning business without SEO. So we need to tread very carefully. So the final part here is that once we've got on-site right, and once we know our off-site SEO strategy, then the final part of the puzzle is tracking our keyword rankings with time. So we may find that we are number 3 for house cleaners, Chicago, on page 1 of Google. So we need to know how that is changing with time. We need to know, are our SEO efforts improving things? Are they, you know, making things worse? Hopefully your SEO rankings will increase over time, but it's obviously not as simple as that. we can get competitors come into the market. We can get other companies maybe engaging in artificial backlink building, and that boosts their rankings, but then they go away. Another thing that we often talk about is that SEO, all the SEO work done today, you don't necessarily see the benefit of that until further down the line. So there's often a time lag as well. So we need to use software to track our most important keywords to see what SEO practices are working and which aren't. And then this directly feeds into, if we are getting higher rankings, that will mean that we're getting more impressions, we'll be getting more clicks, and we'll be getting more leads. And this is where tracking becomes really important in Google Analytics, because we can see from an SEO level how much traffic we're getting through SEO. If you've got your conversion tracking set up, we can also see how many calls we're getting from SEO, how many online form fill submissions we're getting from SEO. So this really is linked. It's really important that what we're doing from SEO, we're tracking carefully as well. So that's a very quick run through of why SEO, what SEO is, why it's so important, and really what in a very, very simplified angle, what we do from on-site SEO and off-site SEO. But really it boils down to these things. There's a whole industry around how we optimize these two things. But obviously we don't have the time here today. But I hope you guys found this session really helpful. Obviously SEO is a really important part of building a large cleaning business. I go into a lot more depth in my coaching program, the 7-Figure Cleaning Academy. It's actually we dedicate a whole week to SEO. So I'll leave a link to the coaching program in the comments below for those of you who are interested. I'll just quickly jump into Facebook, see if we've got any questions. No, we look like we're good to go. So I hope you found today's session useful, guys. If you did, please drop me a comment. It really, really helps with me. And then if you're watching the recording on YouTube, if you click subscribe, and you will get notified of future live sessions as well. So hope you guys found that helpful. Next week, we're going to talk about KPIs, key performance tracking, key performance indicators. It's a super important topic. We really need to know if the business is moving in the right direction or the wrong direction, and the KPIs allows us to really drill down and understand that. And that this is really important if we want to, hit goals, going forward. So next week we'll be talking about KPIs. But as I said, hopefully you guys found the session helpful. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you next week. Many thanks.